Hello and welcome to my today's video, the serious lessons of war, in which I tell everything that I have learned during over 3 years of the full-scale war since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, as a Ukrainian living in Ukraine. And my today's video is going to be about purpose, and I believe that it's going to be the most important video of this series, despite the fact that we have already talked about some very fundamental things like death and fear and how to deal with information and how to regulate your nervous system and how to achieve the levels of vitality that you want to achieve. Still, I think that this topic is very fundamental because it gathers everything together, because it is the answer to the question why to do this. Why to get rid of fear? Why to get rid of the fear of death? Why to find your vitality? Why to deal with information? Why to regulate your nervous system? Why to do all of these things? Despite, of course, the fact that this way it's much easier to live. But the topic of purpose is very, very big, vast and misunderstood, and that's why I'm going to, as usually, start with when I first started to think about it and how my understanding of it developed during these years. And when I look back at these 3.5 years, I realized that I first felt that something happened to me in this context of the purpose in the very first days of the full-scale war, because in those days I got this very vivid and tangible idea, thought, that I will be helping people to deal with the consequences of the war. And it didn't feel like a thought or a dream. It didn't feel like I felt like I'm supposed to do it. It felt right to think so, and it felt like it's going to happen anyways. It felt like nothing can stand in the way of it. And it was a very new feeling to me, because I was somewhat a very undecisive person. Well, not undecisive, but I wasn't sure what I am supposed to do in this world until that moment when I felt that this is what I'm going to do. This is the right thing to do for me. And it was a very ambitious thought, an ambitious dream, because I was a mess at the beginning of the full-scale war, which is very natural, of course. We all were like that. But still, I didn't have any logical reasons to think that I will be able to do that. It was just a feeling that there will be nothing else that I could be doing. And since that day, the world was somehow forming in the ways that led me to this point when I am certified Kundalini Yoga teacher and certified in Kundalini Yoga therapy, that when I have a chance to teach people, to work with people, to help people, to help organize military rehabilitation and to participate in the military rehabilitation, and a lot of other things, actually, to be someone that people can rely on in my community, and to be someone that people can rely on with calming down and with getting back on track after some especially difficult things that might be happening to us here in Ukraine on a daily basis. So there were so many synchronicities and so many opportunities that I got out of nowhere on this way, like some tips and hints, and I could randomly meet someone, start talking to someone, and they would give me a chance to learn something and participate in something and become something to fulfill this purpose of helping people. And sometimes I would just go by the bookshelf, and there was some book that I never read, and it looked like it was highlighted, and I had a question in my head at that point, and I would just take this book and open it randomly and read the answer to my question. It kept happening to me all the time, to the point that it became normal. But actually, it wasn't normal for me 3 years ago. This amount of opportunities and synchronicities and this amount of doors that open and this amount of this obviousity of the path that I'm walking. It wasn't like that 3.5 years ago. My life was a very different thin at that time. And I realized when I was trying to look back at how I came up with the idea of what the purpose is, I realized that purpose is so much more than just what to do. A lot of people think that purpose is something that it's some goal on the outside of you. It's some thing that you are supposed to do. And I thought the same way as well. And I am explaining it the same way as well, right? It's something that I felt I was supposed to do. But we only think this way because we were born and raised in the conditions of the capitalism when everybody is supposed to have a profession, and we think about purpose, but actually we think about profession. But it's a huge misconception, it's a huge misunderstanding of purpose, because purpose is actually not something that you do, but something that you are in the inside. And the interesting thing is that when I came to this place, when I am already somewhat doing what I felt was a right thing to do for me, when I became a yoga teacher and all of the things that I have mentioned before, and when I started to do this blog as well, I realized that it is actually something that I have always been. It's just not something that I was doing on purpose. And not something that I was doing on purpose, yeah. It's just something that I was being, because for example, I have a degree in international economics, but most of the time I worked in the educational establishment. Most of the time I worked in the private companies which produced educational products. I used to also work as a teacher of English, so it was something that I was always gravitating towards, like teaching and doing something like that, like studying and teaching. Those were two of the things which felt the most natural to me, to study and to teach. But I didn't feel like it is something that I should be doing. I was just doing it just like that. But also, I remember there was a situation. I used to play Mafia, and we had these Mafia clubs when everything was very serious, in the meaning that the Mafia was very technical and even sporty, like a kind of a sport. In Ukraine it is like that, like chess, but also Mafia. And I remember I was late for the evening of games. We were to play like 4 or 5 games, and the first 2 were played without me. And I came to the club where we played, and we played the game with me, and it was a very nice and very good vibe kind of a game. And someone came to me after the game and said, you cannot even imagine what was happening here before you came. Like, it was a mess. The atmosphere is horrible. People were almost fighting with each other and quarreling and all that. And then you came and did nothing, and it completely changed. Like, the atmosphere changed on its own. And I realized that it is also something that I am doing, but actually something that I am being. It is a part of my purpose, a part of who I am, to transform the things. Because even this series is my attempt of transforming something in the hearts and minds of people. And it's also like every video of this series is my attempt of transforming something, like coming from informational mess to clarity, coming from lack of calmness to stability, coming from unconscious behavior to conscious behavior, coming from fear to freedom, coming from restriction to vitality, coming from fear of death to realization of death. And all of these things are also a part of my nature. Transforming something inside of me and then sharing this transformation with others. It's also a part of my nature, just like teaching and just like helping people calm down and helping people reboot their nervous system and recuperate. So this is like, all of these things have always been a part of me. I wasn't just doing them consciously. I wasn't just putting them into any kind of specific form. So what I'm trying to say is that purpose is not something that we do, but rather something that we are. It's something that feels very right. It's something that shines through everything the person is doing. And when we become conscious of it, it only changes because the influence becomes bigger. And we can do just a little bit more, and we can be satisfied just a little bit more, because, as I have already mentioned, when you are doing something that is a part of your purpose, meaning you are being fully yourself, you are expressing your nature to the fullest, you feel the most right, and the internal contradictions are being resolved. And it takes away so much tension from the psychics that it's even hard to imagine. Life becomes easy in the inside. It doesn't really become very easy on the outside, and I will come back to it later in this video, but in the inside, it's as if the flow opens and you just become a part of everything that is around you in a very natural way. And it feels really, really good. And it feels really, really guided and almost divine. Why almost divine? I said almost divine to soften it, but it's actually divine. But one more thing about purpose, which is not this obvious. So I have already mentioned that it feels very good, and you somewhat, like, I don't know, I feel like I started to look better and people react to me better, in the meaning that they like, you are shining, like it feels like you are shining from the inside. And I do feel that whenever I do something that corresponds with my purpose, whenever I feel I do something that feels right, I do feel this radiance that I have, that I shine to the outside. But also there is one more thing about purpose that I have noticed at some point in other people, and then I noticed in myself. So in Ukraine right now, we are often in the conditions when there is a direct threat to our lives. In the cities like mine, this threat is constant. So as I have already mentioned in one of the previous videos, the missile may just hit the city any second, basically. And there are cities in which the situation is even worse. And I have a yoga teacher. She was my main teacher for some time, and I am still in very good relationships with her. She lives in Kharkiv, which is the city closer to the border of Russia, like one of the closest big cities to the border of Russia. And there were periods when they would attack Kharkiv daily, like every single day, with everything they had. It was very difficult times for all the people who lived in Kharkiv, but my teacher, her name is Alena, she would go to the studio, to the place where she teaches yoga every day. And she told that the road that she was taking, like the route that she was taking, it was being attacked a few times already. And not the road itself, but the places around this road, and this road was somewhat destroyed in some places, and it was obviously dangerous. And she was like, my children tell me, Mom, but maybe you shouldn't do it, maybe you shouldn't go to this districts of the city that are being attacked. And she was like, but I knew that I was to go, because when I do something that I am supposed to be doing, I am the most protected. And she said this thing, and I started to think about it, and I noticed that the more authentic I am, the less scared I am. The more I do something that feels right, the more I do something that feels synchronized for me or orchestrated for me, the more I do something that is a part of my nature, the less scared I am. And the easier it is to live. And I started to notice it in other people as well, because, for example, I have another teacher. He lives in Spain right now, and he comes here to Ukraine to teach. And Very often when the foreigners come to Ukraine, they are somewhat nervous, somewhat like you notice it that there is certain tension. They are expecting that something might happen, but he was so calm about everything, like completely calm, calmer than me, a person who has been living in it for over 3 years. And when the very first time he came, there was a very bad thunder, and we were sitting in the restaurant, we were having dinner, and there was a very strong thunder, which I got really scared of because I thought that it was a missile. Because in the first time when you hear this horrible sound, you don't understand that it's thunder. You think, like, because of PTSD, we think that it's a missile, something like this happened. But he didn't even flinch, and I was like, but how is it possible? Why are you not scared at all? And he's like, well, I know that I'm meant to be here, and I know that I'm supposed to be here, and I know that I am to be teaching here, so nothing is going to happen to me. And this was the second time when I heard it from someone, and I started to notice it over and over again. And once I had a dream. It was a very vivid and symbolic dream, and I remember that in this dream I was in some building, and I was looking through the window, and I saw that the missiles are coming and just hitting the ground right in front of me in my sight. And I remember that I was, like, in this dream I was of course nervous, and I turned my sight I looked to the side, and I saw gymnasts or acrobats, like women who were training, like training their thing. And I remember in this dream I saw the face of one of them very concentrated on what she was doing, and there was no fear or no doubt, nothing at all. It was just she was just concentrated on what she was doing. And I remember waking up and thinking about this, that when you are doing something that is what feels right, you don't feel like there is anything that can hurt you. And that's the case for me right now. And the funny thing for me right now is that I'm still nervous. I still have, like, my body still reacts. I have very sensitive nervous system, and I still react to the explosions when I hear them, and I still react to the sound of the kamikaze drones. But somewhere deep inside of me, I know that the more aligned I am with what I am meant to do, the more protected I feel, and the more I can do, the more I can be just myself, no matter the conditions, no matter what is happening around me. Recently, there was a period when Kyiv was attacked almost daily, and it's still going on actually. Kyiv has been attacked a lot these days, and there was a video, I will try to find it and put it somewhere here. There was a video of a cardiosurgeon, is that a word? I hope it's the word, cardiosurgeon, who needed to transplant a heart of a child. And they needed to go to one place, take a heart, take it to another place and transplant it. And it was a night in Kyiv when the Kyiv was being attacked. And there is a video of them going through the city, and you can hear the sound of kamikaze drones and the sounds of explosions, and they are going through the city in a car. I'm going to cry, or maybe I'm not. I'll try not to. And they are going in the car, and this he is the head of the Institute of the Heart, and he is driving, because obviously, like, I think he couldn't tell some of his employees, not employees, what are they called? Some of his subordinates to, you have to go to another part of the city under the shelling and get a heart and bring it here. So he did it on his own because he couldn't tell someone else to do it. And in this video, he's driving and he says, "No, I'm gonna cry." Cut. We will come back when I will be all right. I have to finish. And in this video he says, we are bringing a heart a few times, and you can see how calm he is. And this is one of the most illustrative examples of what I'm speaking about. When you're doing something that you know you're meant to be doing, you feel very protected, and you feel like nothing is going to happen to you. And it's probably the case, because because when you are doing this, you are aligned with why you are here. And that's why it is called purpose, because every soul in this world has something why they came here. And it's not necessarily something to do something big or to fulfill something big. It's very often to change certain way, to heal yourself, to do something that feels right, basically, to do something that you want to do, to achieve something that you want to achieve, but very, very deep inside of you, not something that other people tell you that you should achieve, or not something that Instagram tells you that you should achieve, but something that feels very right inside of you. And when you are actually doing it, it's a very different quality of life, and it's a very different sense and feeling, and it's a very different like, for me, my life feels like some kind of magic, because I know that I am meant to, experience certain things and transform certain energies, and maybe bring it to other people, show it to other people. And I do it on different scales. I do it inside of me. I do it with other people. I do it with my clients. I do it through this. And it really feels like the world is communicating with me. It's like the amount of synchronicities that happen, it's almost magical. It's actually magical. And this is what my life feels like right now. I remember my favorite book when I was a child was Harry Potter, and I remember this magical world, and it fascinated me so much, and now I feel like I live in it. I live in some magical world, as if sometimes I have periods when I feel like I drank some Felix Felicis, because it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like it could be just happening to me, but it is. But there are certain difficulties connected with it as well, and it would be really wrong of me to not mention them here. And the difficulties which are connected with living your purpose are also connected with the way we are brought up, and with the current configuration of the society, let's call it this way, because the society is very different. It's very interesting right now, because on the one hand, people are very eager to see people who are being authentic, people who are being themselves, and people who are being fulfilling their purpose, because such people are very alive and interesting and charismatic, and very nice to look at. But at the same time, the society does not really accept the inconveniences which come from dealing with someone who is being fully themselves, because the person who is fully themselves is the person who accepts everything about them, including the things which may be uncomfortable to other people, including the things that may be triggering for other people, including the things that may make other people jealous, and so on and so on. So while I am speaking about my way of finding my purpose, of trying to follow my purpose more than not follow it, as something very aligned and very beautiful and very endlessly right, but it wasn't just that. It was also a lot of pain connected with accepting myself and accepting my dark side, because you can't be yourself and you don't know yourself, and you are not just light but also darkness. And for some people, their purpose is ruining something, and it's not something that people like when you ruin. For me also, sometimes I have to ruin someone's patterns. Sometimes I have to show people that they're doing their own thing, something that is not authentic. And not everybody accepts it well, and I'm not comfortable for all the people that I meet. And it creates a lot of tension. And especially for me, as someone who grew up as a people pleaser, breaking this habit of trying to be liked to become who I am, it was really, really hard. And a lot of people would have to go through it if they want to follow their purpose. A lot of people would have to go through the resistance of the society, which comes from the system, like the economical system which we live in, because most of the purposes do not fit in the 9 to 5 work. Most of the purposes do not fit into the corporate world. Most of the purposes do not mean that you have to be the normal member of the society as it is considered right now. So there is a lot of friction in that too. Also, purpose doesn't always pay you well, especially at the beginning, and especially when you are in this period when you are finding it, and it takes a lot of energy to find it, to find it inside of you, to transform it, to get rid of the things which are limiting you from actually being yourself. And it takes a lot of time and energy. And for me, it was a huge shortage of money. It was really difficult to go through these years making like little to no money and living in this world as it is right now. I was also very ashamed, and I kind of still am, ashamed of not making like as much money as other people around me are making, being a 30-year-old. So there are a lot of things which are somewhat difficult when you are on this path. For me, it was all worth it. Like all the friends that I lost and all the people from my life that I lost, and everything actually that I have lost, it was totally worth it. I'm happy that I chose my real nature and myself on every step that I was taking, not on every step, every time I was able to choose myself. But still, I have to warn you that there will be resistance from the surrounding and from the society, and there will be resistance inside of you as well, because we all internalize some patterns and some standards and some, these milestones. You have to make this much by this age, you have to be this by this age, you have to have this by this age, and so on and so on. And we have these things inside of us, and we have to deal with them as well when we are trying to be ourselves. Because the nature of every person, as I have already mentioned, I think that purpose is actually the expression of our real nature. The nature of every single person is completely unique. Like there may be similar purposes. The people may be resonating a lot with their energies, with their natures, but there are not two people who are the same. Every person is unique, and it's not something that we are used to thinking, and it's not something that we are used to cultivating, because a lot of people are just doing doing something in some companies, in some corporate world, and something like this, something that everybody could do, something that is replaceable. And it's not the case. If you are doing something that another person could be doing, you are doing the wrong thing, because you're not being yourself. And that's why there is certain friction, and there is certain resistance, and there is certain difficulty of overcoming this all. So I needed to warn you as well that it is not a bed of roses, but still it is very, very worth it, like every single bit of it. And also purpose is something that you can always come back to, and it's always something that your life can be built upon, because whatever happens to you, you can always come back to that. You can always come back to your own nature. There will always be a chance to continue it. Like whether something happens, whether you lose a job or you lose some opportunity, another one will come, because you are still being yourself, and you are still able to express what you are to the outside world. Whenever there is something with the relationships, whenever there is something with people, whenever there is something, like whatever happens, whenever there is something happening in the country, you can always come back to what you are, and you can always come back to your thing. In Ukrainian, there is a saying which is very popular during the war because a lot of shit is happening. And whenever something bad is actually happening, people are like, well, we are to do our thing. In Ukrainian, it's нам своє робить. Нам своє робить. We are to do our thing. I am to do my thing. And it is a very good illustration also of what the purpose is. Something that you can always come back to, and something that will always protect you, and something that will always give you the ground under your feet. Under your feet. Yeah, this is the sign that I am to be finishing the video. When I say some shit which doesn't make sense, when I say something very weirdly, it means that I am talking too much. So I hope you understood something from my today's video. I don't even remember half of the things that I was saying during this half an hour. So probably that wasn't even me talking. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. There is one more video remaining, one last video. And the series will be over. And I cannot believe it. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.